welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope your week is off to a great start. We're going to take a look at this up-and-coming new moon in Pisces today and see all of like the mystical and magical things connected to this particular lunation. I'm titling this video, The Field of Dreams. If you guys like my content and you want to see more of it, make sure you click the bell button below. This will subscribe you to my YouTube channel and you'll be alerted when we have new videos coming out. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. And it's really important to be subscribed this month, guys, because we have eclipses coming and also some retrograde shadows that'll be taking place the second half of this month. I talk about it a little bit in this month's astro weather and also our horoscope. So make sure you check those out. So we're going to be having this new moon in Pisces, the last new moon of the astrological new year before next month we kind of start fresh. So it's definitely a time to tap in and reflect. We're going to be having the new moon on March the 10th, 2024. I'm on Central Time, so I'm going to be experiencing it around 4 a.m. But on the Pacific Coast, it'll be around 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Obviously, check your time zones and apply that accordingly. This is going to be affecting Pisces placements specifically from 18 to 22 degrees. And if you have anything from 18 to 22 degrees of the mutable signs, you'll be feeling this as well. Now, I titled this video A Field of Dreams, specifically because of the phrase that comes from that movie. So maybe you guys have seen it. If you haven't, I definitely recommend adding that to your list of videos that you guys watch this month, because in that video, the phrase, if you build it, they will come, keeps coming up over and over. And that's in the context of the film, you know, the main character, Ray, hears like mysterious voices that are telling him to build a baseball field in his cornfield. And he keeps hearing these voices and like seeing like visions and like apparitions of old baseball players, and finally, you know, kind of decides to go and build this baseball field, which sounds like totally crazy. But despite doubts and skepticism for others, he decides to follow the voice's instructions and he constructs the baseball field. So if you've heard this phrase before, this is what it comes from. And it's become like a metaphor basically in taking a leap of faith and pursuing a dream or a vision and trusting that if you create something of value, others will be drawn to it. So it's used to inspire people to pursue their passions and creative endeavors, even in the face of uncertainty and skepticism. So there's like some layers to this title, because I don't think it's just relating to this particular movie per se and the guidance that I kind of got for this video, but it's also connected to Jupiter. Okay, so Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and we have this beautiful Pisces stellium that's setting up at the time of the new moon in Pisces. And we actually see a pretty wide, it's about an 8-degree or so sextile, but it's a sextile nevertheless to Jupiter. And Jupiter is about abundance. It's about resources. It's about riches and philosophy and growth and travel. And it's in the sign of Taurus, which is an earth sign. So literally, field of dreams. And if you believe that you can actually build something, if you can dream it, if you can meditate on it, if you can visualize it, or if you're listening to that little voice inside, it is possible that it will bring you some sense of significant growth. Physical, like literal riches, resources, better self-esteem, more confidence. But I also think it's going to be really important for the collective. So remember, if you build it, they will come. Now, this particular new moon is going to be at 20 degrees. So 20 degrees has a connection and association with like Scorpio energies. So it does represent this transformation, right? This renewal process that we have to go through. So maybe we are reflecting on this new moon, what needs to change, right? What are we changing about our goals? What are we changing about our beliefs? What are we dissolving and kind of letting go? And there's this need to do this, right? Before we set this new moon intention, I think that, you know, the Sabian symbol is also very telling for this particular degree. So I'll read it to you guys. It's going to be 20 degrees, but we're going to read 21. And this particular Sabian symbol is a little white lamb, a child, and a Chinese servant. Okay, so that is the Sabian symbol. So Pisces 20, and the keyword is talent. The theme is perceiving beauty in difference. The symbol speaks to the importance in finding the meaning and opportunity in diversity. The image of a little white lamb, a child, and a Chinese servant alludes to the value of respecting individual differences and finding creative ways to motivate individuals with unique or special gifts to work together towards common goals. The figures in this image have no apparent relationship to each other. They're unique and complete within themselves, and yet they appear together as a tableau vivant, or a separate, yet together. The emphasis here is on integration and synthesis. The Chinese servant looks to the past, the lamb to the present, and the child to the future. Yet time is an illusion in each part of the eternal now. At its highest, the symbol represents extraordinary versatility, imagination, a preference for the unusual, and a natural gift for spotting and developing talent in others. Watch for confusion, lack of organization, and inability to understand or to make sense of life. The accent is on diversity and specialization. You may be challenged to find ways to help people work together on some group project. Your greatest advantage lies in being able to bring diverse or seemingly heterogeneous elements together to a unified and well-functioning whole. Capitalize on the unique talents of individuals in any group endeavor. Find the opportunities that difference creates. Guard against trying to force everyone into the same mold or expecting them to think alike. Don't resent or ignore what doesn't seem to fit. There is a use or niche for everyone, for everything and everyone. So stepping stones would be diversity, difference, variation, contrast, diffusion, versatility, specialty, division of labor, and promise or aptitude or skill. So I kind of think of like this is, you guys hear like one of these is not like the others. You know that phrase. And it may seem at first glance that whatever intentions you're setting or whatever you're trying to kind of bring together, because Pisces can be about like melting everything into one, it may not work. But actually, there can be some beauty in being able to kind of blend in separate pieces or separate connections to other people, or, like things that are different to be able to create something that is new. So rather than looking at a situation and being like, oh, these things don't work, or this will never work if I merge the two together, look at it as an opportunity to be able to create something new, right? I think of like, like food that you can go and get like two particular cuisines and it can be kind of like a blend and you're like, oh, that's different, but I like it. Like that's kind of how I see that particular degree. And obviously, like I said, the aspects between Pisces and Taurus are very harmonious. We feel like, if we're able to really kind of tap into this vision for the future and the ability to also make peace or release or maybe make a sacrifice, we're able to kind of build something brand new and something stronger. Now, Neptune also is important. Neptune is the modern day ruler of Pisces. So the fact that the moon is also conjunct Neptune does feel otherworldly. It has this feeling of feeling inspired and dreamy and creative and poetic and romantic. So there may be really amazing energies that we can tap into also that is about art, and it's about beauty and self-expression and creativity. When we have this new moon, the sun is bringing the attention to the moon. It's highlighting that. And the moon is in some tricky aspects. Not only is it, conjunct the sun, creating this fresh start, but it's right in between Neptune, which I think is the great dissolver, and also Saturn, which can feel like the great divide. So there can be this sense of kind of feeling like we're in the void right now. I'm working on a separate video that I'm going to talk to you guys all about this Pisces stellium and like how to work with it and like I think what it really means, because it does represent this period of the year where we're really trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. We're needing to kind of get quiet and have some time alone to really figure out what we're keeping and what we're kind of getting rid of as we're coming into April of 2024. I got curious about, some of the aspects in this chart, particularly the the Saturn-Neptune midpoint. But just a little bit more on the Sabian symbol, just to give you guys more context. I think for me, really the big thing here is that, it talks about a sense of innocence, purity, and guidance, right? It symbolizes the need for understanding and compassion while we interact with other people, regardless of their background or their social status. And it also suggests the importance of humility and willingness to learn from others, especially those who may be different from us, what they can teach us, like learning to be more empathic and sympathetic and understanding, and really kind of maybe dissolving some of the boundaries or the limitations between us and other people, especially if they come from a different culture, a different religion, a different background, to better understand and empathize with them and learn from them. So some kind of, like examples that come up for me are, cultural harmony. So it could represent, communities or organizations where people from different cultures and backgrounds are coming together in harmony, that's going to be a focus because this is a new moon. So it's planting the seed for the next 6 months. Now I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I will tell you this particular new moon in the fall of 2024 in mid-September will become a lunar eclipse. It will be the very first lunar eclipse in Pisces as a series of eclipses that are going to be starting early before the nodal shift next year. So we'll look at that in a second. But I also see this as opportunity for education and guidance, because like the image of the child and the Chinese servant together can symbolize the roles of teacher and student, which I really love because Saturn has this very kind of teacher energy. It does represent elders in society. It represents people who are leaders or people who may be connected in religious or spiritual or like mental health, kind of titles. And I think that this can indicate a period of learning and growth where, we're guided by wise mentors and teachers who can help us navigate life's challenges and discover our true potential. So what an amazing new moon to say, okay, I want to learn more about this thing, this topic, this particular, occupation, this language, whatever. And you go and find that person who can kind of help teach you. And I don't think they're just going to be teaching you in a literal sense. I think it's going to be like hands-on because the sextile to Jupiter and Uranus says it needs to be something that we're actually actively doing. We're not just sitting in a classroom learning. We are hands-on and we are involved. To be quite literal, literally, I think of like Pisces as being like churches and spiritual religious organizations, temples, healing centers. And the sextile to Jupiter and Uranus might mean that we have certain leaders that are saying, rather than getting up on stage and preaching about unity or preaching about acceptance or preaching about helping the homeless, like stop talking about it, be about it. Actually get active, going to food drives, donating clothes, donating services, making meals for other people, like helping other people in a physical, literal sense. So I'm curious to see if the people who are talking about this are actually going to be walking the walk and talking the talk. And we're really going to start to see who true, I feel like, religious people are. And whether you're religious or not, me personally, I kind of have a little bit of like a issue with some of these pastors and some of these people who are like living in their big mansions and they're preaching about, taking care of others and helping others. And obviously, their commitment and their devotion to their faith and like leading other people, that's important. But I have a little bit of an issue with that personally. And that's maybe what's kind of kept me from some, real kind of organized like religious commitment per se. Anyway. And so I look at this and I go, wow, we're going to start to see who really is about making sacrifices and dedication and helping people, and who are the people who are just talking about it and getting on their soapbox and like accepting donations and then going and buying like a new suit or a new car, So this will be an interesting time to kind of take a look and see who's really doing the good work. I think about innocence and purity specifically because of the symbol connected to the white lamb. And then it can bring a sense of simplicity and something that's purified and cleansed and brand new. So it can indicate like a need to approach life also with like a childlike curiosity and openness, free from preconceived notions or biases, and to cultivate a sense of purity in our thoughts and our words and our actions. I, for one, really love a new moon in Pisces for doing like a good ritual bath and a cleanse. Like I like to like, you know, take a salt bath, you know, set my intentions, clear everything out, clean all the floors, clean all the counters with, you know, like soap and vinegar and salt water, and like, you know, just literally cleanse everything. So it's a really wonderful time to look at it as this is that purification period. That's like, okay, we're going to clear it all away. We're going to have a fresh start. We're looking at things from a new, you know, fresh set of eyes. And also not judge a book by its cover, you know, that sense of being innocent and seeing things from like a child's perspective before we grow up and we have stereotypes and, you know, ingrained beliefs and philosophies because of our culture or our background or, you know, our religious kind of biases. It's learning to see people as inherently good, right? And trying to see the good in other people and trying to also be more open-minded when it comes to kind of who we're connecting with. Now, I think of obviously service and humility because we're talking about a servant. So we have the Chinese servant as a symbol, which represents the idea of service, but also it suggests the importance of serving others with humility and compassion, putting the needs of others before our own, and finding fulfillment in selfless acts of kindness, helping just because we want to, because we have the capability, because we're able to give back, we're able to be generous. And I'm looking at, you know, Jupiter being, you know, the ruler of all of this and the conjunction to Uranus, and this is about helping feed other people, helping clothe other people, helping give, you know, freely to others, because that's actually what makes us feel fulfilled. That's what makes us feel abundant. So this can be a moon where, you know, if you're somebody who's in need, you can receive support, and vice versa. If you're somebody who feels like you're capable of giving back and being able to help your community or the collective, it can be a time where you feel very full because you're able to, you know, be generous and donate to other people. And that in itself makes you feel, you know, abundant in a sense of like giving, you know, maybe it's just me, but like I'm somebody who loves giving gifts. Like I love Christmas and holidays and stuff, not so much for receiving gifts, but like giving gifts. So this sextile to Jupiter and Uranus makes me feel like there can be amazing acts of generosity and things that can radically change people's whole perspective about the collective just by being good and trying to be generous with other people. And that doesn't mean that you're putting more money in your church plate or you're giving, you know, money to a homeless person. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about little acts of kindness that you do just because it makes you feel good, knowing that you can brighten somebody else's day up. That is generally shocking, unexpected, you know, it's out of the blue. And then obviously there is a really strong signature here that's about spiritual guidance, because the lamb, the child, and the Chinese servant could also symbolize spiritual guidance and protection. So it can indicate a period of a spiritual awakening or enlightenment when individuals are guided by higher or spiritual principles and are able to transcend limitations. Ooh, transcending limitations. Talk about Saturn and Pisces. I don't know about you guys, but this is like a bit of like a really wonky transit. I think I was too young to remember the last time Saturn went into Pisces, but you know, for me, there's a lot of me realizing the blockages that we're experiencing are things that are going on in other realms. It's happening in our sleep. It's happening in therapy sessions. It's happening behind the scenes. It's something that's energetically affecting us. If you guys agree with this, or if you're feeling this, let me know below, because I feel kind of crazy saying it. And a lot of stuff is kind of getting, I think, worked out either subconsciously or literally in the ethers. And we're having to kind of fight through it. And it feels confusing. It feels like any which way we turn, things aren't making sense. We're having to really get clear about our intentions, our emotions, right? Pisces is an emotional sign. And also what our beliefs are, because thought and ideas create our own reality, right? Where intention goes, energy flows. And I think that's very true with this particular sextile between Pisces and Jupiter. I think of Pisces as like being the person who's, you know, creating all of the images, or they're creating the videos, or they're kind of manning the projector, right? Showing Taurus, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go there, this is how I envision this, but none of it's physical yet, none of it's tangible. And so we have to really focus on those visual images, those things that come to us intuitively in meditation or in dreams, or when we're in the shower and we have like that epiphany moment. That's very much like this new moon in Pisces, where we have to kind of, you know, sit with it for a second, feel into it and go, yeah, that feels right. I actually think that this is something that I should do. And then we're going to start to see, you know, our field of dreams start to grow. And that's going to be happening April, May, June. When I tell you guys that the next 3 months astrologically are very big, I know some of you guys have been watching me for several years, but like some of the stuff that's coming out in the world is going to be very, very significant in terms of energy changes, in terms of financial shifts and changes, also in terms of the food supply and what we're doing with food and how we're treating our planet, and whether or not we are creating an environment where everybody is feeling abundant and everybody has the necessary resources. Like everything is about to just like crack wide open the next couple of months. So if you're anticipating, if you look at your chart, look at where Taurus is, if you're anticipating that there's going to be some big boom, right, when Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in April, what are you doing to prepare for that? What are you hoping is going to come of that? Remember, Jupiter is a positive planet. Uranus is kind of like an anything goes. It's a curveball. You don't know what you're going to get. But for some of us, we're going to feel like when we get to April and May that we have literally like hit the lottery. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I see it. Jupiter, Uranus aspects and Pluto aspects are generally what triggers charts when I see things going on with lottery winnings. And I'm not saying we're all going to hit the lottery, but we may feel like that spiritually, or we may feel like that financially, or in terms of some beautiful kind of growth period that's going to be happening. And is it sudden and quick and unexpected? Yes, it is. But is it going to be necessary to propel us forward into really leaning into a new sense of values, experiencing more pleasure, having more beauty in our life, having more art and love and opportunity to enjoy our free time? Yes, it is. And so I'm encouraging all of you guys with this new moon to vision board, right? Or sit and take a bath or a shower and sit and meditate and envision what's kind of coming in for you. And what does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What are the emotions that are coming up when you reach that sudden opportunity to have a life-changing situation? And I'll take you guys through the 12 signs, so don't worry. But so much of it, you know, Saturn and Pisces has been teaching me that like you don't have to see it to believe it. You have to be focusing on how it feels. You have to also be willing to make sacrifices and cut away the things that are keeping you from achieving your dreams, that are holding you back, where there is self-undoing, where there is too much isolation, where there is this unwillingness to have faith or believe. And it requires you to do more of your Saturn work in the 12th house. Quite literally, when I see somebody who has Saturn in Pisces or Saturn in the 12th house, I'm like, you have to be meditating. That's really the only way that you can do this. And whether you go on a retreat or you go for a walk by yourself in nature, or you're sitting by, you know, the beach or a stream or the pool, you need to be kind of getting into that Neptunian energy where you have the ability to, I think like, yeah, to kind of like visually kind of play. That's really how I see the 12th house. And we can awaken this connection that we have to our spiritual higher selves. We can awaken that connection that we have also to other realms where we feel very inspired and tapped in and kind of better guided. So that's how you want to use this particular new moon. And it's going to be not just, okay, I want something new in this particular area of my life, but it's going to be helping the Taurus area of your life kind of fully blossom. So I love that the Jupiter, you know, rulership is fairly strong at the time of this new moon, especially with Jupiter's sextile to Saturn, where Saturn says, okay, if you can believe it, you know, then we can build it and we can bring in those necessary resources. And when we look at it from the perspective of Neptune, you know, when the sun gets close to Neptune, there's like this softening effect. Where we have to really kind of unwind a little bit, and we have to maybe lean into the waves of emotion, or knowing intuitively when we need to kind of make time for something, or take a break, or take a nap, or make way for something and sacrifice something. So even though it sounds very rich and yummy and abundant, don't get it twisted. The moon in conjunction both to Saturn as well as Neptune does kind of say we also have to be willing to make a sacrifice. whether that's time, although I think Saturn in Pisces is teaching us time is an illusion, it's not real, or, you know, that moon conjunct Neptune, that we have to open up and really listen to what our emotions are telling us, so that way we are really moving in a way throughout our life with purpose, that we're doing things that are meaningful, we're making good use of our time, we're making good use of our resources. We are building a life that feels full because we're more in alignment with our values. Now, the new moon's in the Saturn-Neptune midpoint. Hey, that's kind of significant. So midpoints are like a whole extra layer of goodness, whether you're using it in a natal chart or you're looking at, you know, like looking at solar returns, or maybe you're looking at, you know, like other charts in transit. It adds a whole other layer, so don't sleep on midpoints. But essentially, if we have Saturn at 11, and if we have the new moon at 20, the new moon at 20 and then Neptune at 27, this is roundabout the midpoint between the two. So it takes that fusion of Saturn and Neptune and it brings it together. So the Saturn-Neptune midpoint, it's combining the energies of the two planets. So if we have structure, limitation, discipline with Neptune, which is about dreams, illusion, and spirituality, this midpoint points to a very sensitive point, which is about blending these energies together in our life. So when we have the sun, which is the conscious self, and it's about action and vitality, and the moon, which is more about our emotional side, our intuition, our instincts, in this particular point, it's basically saying that it's both realistic and visionary. It's about balancing the demands of everyday life with a deeper sense of purpose and spirituality. So this placement suggests a time where, you know, we need to be sensitive to the suffering and struggles of other people, and have a strong desire to help or heal in some way. And we may find that there is like a deep inner rich imagination that comes up for us. There's more time for creativity, but also facing challenges in grounding our visions into reality and dealing with feelings of limitation and inadequacy. So it's like this push and pull energy. And I really feel like with Saturn, it's like, no, I have to do this. And with Neptune, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm too tired, or I'm afraid, or what if it doesn't work out? And so collectively, if we zoom out with the sun and moon at this point, we're going to see a lot of people who are going to be like, I want to do this, but I'm afraid, or I'd like to help, but I don't know how, and feeling held back, right? That's kind of how I see it. Now, if we look ahead, there's a couple times that this new moon is actually going to get reactivated. And I want to give you these dates because I think it's really important. New moons, you know, do play out over about 28 days. So until we get to the next new moon, which is going to be in Aries, and it'll be a solar eclipse at the beginning of April. And like, holy shift, guys, like April is like so wild. I see this as a time that's like we get really quiet before the real big shakeups start happening. But in 6 months' time, this new moon will become a lunar eclipse in Pisces. So it is going to be quite significant in the fall of 2024. Equally, Saturn will station conjunct this degree. So Saturn's going to get all the way up to about 19 degrees this year. So that seems to be really significant in really honing in that lesson and that theme of trying to be compassionate and understand other people, and trying to be a part of the collective healing and helping others. And then Venus is going to hit this degree. Mars is going to hit this degree. So you're going to see this play out over some time. So I want to give you those time periods really quickly. So we'll come back to the new moon in just a second. But Venus will hit 20 degrees. And it looks like that's going to happen on March 28th, 2024. So I see this as like an integration, you know, exalted Venus just coming out of a conjunction with Saturn, where we're starting to see the blessings, right? We're starting to see more love, more opportunity to open up, to express, to create, to relate as a part of this particular new moon that was set. So you start to see some of the goodness, you know, literally right around like what? So the new moon is on the 10th, so about 18 days later, just short of, you know, 3 weeks. Then we're going to see Mars hit this degree. So Mars in Pisces is where we are feeling instinctively directed or driven, where we are taking action that feels like it's in alignment with purpose. It's like the spiritual warrior. It is the person who's standing up and fighting for those who are lost or those who are in need of service. It can also talk about other things. So it can be talking about some kind of spiritual warfare, stuff that's going on where we're seeing conflict on water. We're hearing more about conflict revolving around ships or, coastal cities and, Navy bases. We'll get into it, but let me just say, having the North Node ruler, right, which is Mars, and also the ruler of Aries season, trapped, or what was the term that I used? I forgot it. Besieged. Remember I talked about Captain Hook, where he's like planets taken captive. Between Neptune, ruler of the oceans, and also the unseen, and Saturn, which talks about some kind of limitation or boundary. This is also going to talk about some government stuff. I anticipate, not to be like Debbie Downer, but I anticipate this is going to be about, we're hearing something going on with some kind of water, naval, kind of conflict. Because that's really what Mars, Neptune with Saturn is. Now, I also think this is, set in also forward because we're going to be in Aries season. We're seeing an eclipse in Aries. But this is about unexpected warfare, unexpected attacks. Some of the stuff that we've heard about, like pharmacy systems going down, that's very Pisces. Some of the stuff that we've heard about also, this fear of like cyber attacks, I could see that as being very Pisces because Mars will be sextiling Jupiter and Uranus, which is about some kind of energy or things that represent resources or food or banking. So I'm not saying this to be a fearmonger, but the astrology does seem to say, yes, some of these things can happen, but with some of these things happening, all may not be what it seems. And there may be some ulterior motives or something fishy, right? Because Mars, Saturn, and Pisces conjunct Neptune is like, oh, this happened. I wonder why this happened. Who did this? And then, this is what we have to do in order to be better prepared. So you'll see a lot of synchronicities with things that are failing, right? Failure is really Saturn and Pisces. If you think back to what happened with like the submarine stuff, you guys remember that? I think that was last year. I believe that was like I want to say it was like a Mercury opposed Saturn transit that happened. So we saw some kind of like malfunction that happened. Well, Mars coming into conjunction with Saturn can be very similar, where there is some kind of secret or kind of hidden attack or something that happens and then something fails. The conjunction to Neptune is like, now we don't know what the problem is. We're trying to figure it out. It's like this weird thing. And anyway, I'll talk about this more next month, but like there's some more things unfolding. Now, if you look at this also, this is right when the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is happening. Okay? So that's important. Jupiter is the dispositor of all this stuff going on in Pisces. If you guys think that shit isn't going to hit the fan in April, May, you're crazy because the synchronicities are all over this chart. And this is sextiling Mars. So because there is some kind of failure or some kind of breakdown or something that gets cut, it has some huge impact on Jupiter and Uranus. So it could be water shortages. We could be hearing also about, I've heard some people talking about how there's been potential hacks into things that are connected to, to water and other utility type things. And the impact that can have on the price of water or the price of resources or the price of food or the price of, just natural resources in general. It's just, anyway, so, this will unfold further around the 18th. And then finally, we will see this become an eclipse in the fall. Okay, so this will be September 17th, 2024. So like I said, it takes about 6 months for something to unfold when we have a new moon. And so if you look at this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, okay, so the reason why it's a lunar eclipse is because it's within range of the North Node. So sometimes we have these eclipses before the North and South Node actually shifts into the new signs, which they will at the beginning of 2025. So this is the first series of eclipses in Pisces and Virgo that we have seen in about 9 years. And what do we have here? Oh, the moon is sandwiched between Saturn and Neptune. And it's in opposition, right, to the sun. And so what is the axis of Pisces and Virgo? Virgo is jobs, hospitality, people who help, people who heal. I think about nurses. I think about veterinarians. I think about hospitality. hairdressers, people who help and have some kind of grooming or health, service that they give. But this is also about the health of everyone. And we're going to have the ruler, right, we're going to have the ruler of the eclipse, which is technically Jupiter, in a square with the sun. Now, Pisces is more spiritual centers, healing centers, isolation, sacrifice, hospitals, prisons, camps, things that deal with also mental and emotional and spiritual health. So it's kind of the polarity of the physical health habits and routines. So when we see a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, first of all, the Pisces moon in itself already is incredibly sensitive. It's very, very, very empathic. It can absorb things from other people. So if you're a natal Pisces moon, or if you have moon in the 12th house, you know what I'm talking about. You can literally pick up on other people's emotions. So when we have a lunar eclipse, emotions are already very much highlighted, but then when we throw it into Pisces and we put the moon smack dab between Saturn, which is retrograde and it's limiting something, and then Neptune, which can talk about isolation, separation, or even dissolving or fear. This is an eclipse that's very much about whether or not people emotionally feel safe or if they feel healthy. And it's going to square Jupiter, which is the traditional ruler. And Jupiter is in its fall in Gemini. It can sometimes tell tall tales here because we think of Mercury and Sagittarius, kind of similar energy. And Mercury is going to be about the news. It's going to be about the radio. It's going to be about social media, what we're hearing. And so having Jupiter square in its fall, this particular lunar eclipse is going to bring out a lot of information that's going to, I think, scare a lot of people and make a lot of people feel like, oh, well, there's another variant, or there's something going on, or there's some health issues. And potentially the moon conjunct Saturn, making a lot of people feel very emotionally down and limited, and feeling like they're at a loss. And, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'll do the video on this later, but I was like, wow, to me, Jupiter has this connection to prayer. And one thing you guys are going to see that's going to happen in August and also December of this year is we'll see Jupiter square Saturn. And for me, this is going to feel like unanswered prayers, but that some of our unanswered prayers are actually going to be blessings in disguise. Things that we've been hoping for, praying for, that we've wanted. And we're going to go, oh, it hasn't happened yet. But we'll find out that it's a blessing in disguise, that there is some kind of delay that's in the future. But I see this through this Jupiter square Saturn. I also see, Neptune being the modern day ruler, and the conjunction between Neptune and the moon is that a lot of people are going to be out of their minds about what they're hearing on the news, or the impacts that it may be having on freedom of speech, on social media, on traveling, and some other stuff. And then we've got Mercury, which is about business and also travel. And this is also about job numbers. Mercury will oppose Saturn. Throughout history, if you go and you look at the cycles when we've had Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, it's always correlated with economic decline. It's always correlated with high unemployment, with job loss. And yeah, unfortunately, this is what happens. So we'll see this full moon that's going to come through, that's an eclipse square Jupiter, and Mercury's opposed Saturn. We're going to be hearing that there's going to be some of this stuff going on in Q3 and Q4 of 2024. And so, yeah, I do think that that's painting a picture that's saying basically whether we are seeing decreased job numbers because of economic issues and economic decline, or we're seeing this because potentially there is another scare in regards to what's going on with, health related matters. Shift is hitting the fan in a very big way. So to put it into perspective, right? Because I know some of this can sound heavy, but I say this just to remind you guys, number one, you create your own reality. If you want to say that's not the reality that I subscribe to, I'm not subscribing to that. Awesome, because you have the opportunity in this new moon to say, okay, I'm going to reflect on what could happen. I'm not going to say it will happen, but I'm going to reflect on what could happen. And I'm going to think more about creating my own reality. And I'm really going to focus now on, envisioning a life where I have everything that I need. And what am I doing to be able to bring that in? How am I helping my garden grow? Literally. I mean, I'm telling you, this is coming firsthand from somebody who's using the astrology in real life. I just bought like 3 seed vaults because I'm like, I want to have a bunch of seeds on hand. I have a bunch of planters in my backyard. I'm going to be going out there and uprooting everything, planting a bunch of stuff because I want to be able to have my own vegetable garden. I also am now making an effort to be more proactive and getting connected with local farmers markets, because this is literally the sextile between Pisces and Taurus. Taurus is farmers. Taurus is our local, kind of stores. It is the people who we can kind of do business with that are closer to us. It's that relationship we have with ranchers and farmers and, people who are involved in agriculture. So part of the way I'm using this is I'm like, you know what? I am going to listen to my gut feelings, my intuition, also my dreams. I've heard a lot of people. Sometimes I'll kind of scan through YouTube and like see what people are talking about. And I see videos where people are like, I had this dream, this thing is coming, and obviously there's going to be like a million prophets on YouTube, but it's interesting to hear this kind of connection where there is this common kind of belief that's like, yeah, we are having to learn how to collectively work together. And our values are all changing collectively. And we're going to be realizing that to be wealthy, it means to be able to help feed our communities. It's to make sure that we have healthy communities, healthy children, that we are living more sustainably, that we are learning to be more independent, that we are reconnecting our relationship to the planet. And so I see a lot of this through the astrology, and I feel like, Pisces energy can be very quick to spiral, and it can be very quick to be like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. What are we going to do? Like screw it. And then especially the late degrees of Pisces, it's like once they know the ship is going down, it's like they're going to go down in an amazing and a spectacular way where they're going to drink, drug, party, and then just kind of like bring on the end of the world. And some people have that perspective, but whatever. We want to be careful not to look at some things and go, well, if it's going down, we might as well overspend, overindulge, overdrink, overparty, overdrug, because we can do that with this energy. Very quickly, we can just want to become out of our, put ourselves out of our bodies energetically because it feels too much like it to deal with vibrationally. And then we start looking at the emotional and psychological implications of that, where some people are like, I can't handle what's going on. Truth be told, as Jupiter and Uranus get closer, the vibrations on the planet are increasing substantially. You can see it through, the resonance charts. You can see it also just through, what's going on with the spikes through that, daily. Some people say, oh, there's solar flares, there's this, there's that. Yeah, but there is a vibration that is changing. And that vibration, I think, is because collectively people are waking up. And I know I'm not the only one who's saying this. You can see it. A lot of people are almost kind of feeling like they're finally taking the blindfolds off of their eyes and they're going, now I can finally see, right? And so Jupiter has a lot to do with truth. And so I think about how Jupiter is kind of conjunct Uranus, and that, truth can be a very dangerous and a very rebellious thing. But there's no stopping this train. There's no denying that certain truths are actually beginning to unravel. They're going to be revealed over the next 2 or 3 months. And so when you start to become aware that that matrix is falling and that the truth is actually coming out about the world, celebrities that we worshipped, or, people who we thought that were in control, or, certain things that we always believed in about society or about ourselves, there is this crystallization effect with Saturn where we can become so focused on that that's only what we want to hold on to and what we want to believe. Or we can lean into this kind of, like I said, breaking through the matrix, kind of the shattering all of the pieces that we see with Uranus, and then kind of realizing the truth, and that the truth really sets us free. Through this awakening, I think it can give the opportunity for a lot of people to step out of this programming and into this realization that we're supposed to have a relationship with the planet. We're supposed to have natural things. We're supposed to have organic things. We're supposed to also, just watching nature for a long enough period of time, nature always wins. So we can accept, if you want to, things that are artificial food, artificial, technology, artificial everything. You can accept that if that's what you want. But ultimately, nature is very patient. And I think that we are going to start to see that when some of these things kind of fall away, nature will return. It will actually kind of take over. Look at what you see with the jungles, where you see deserted jungles and people who have left certain city dwellings, or, I think about what happened at Chernobyl, where if you go and look at pictures of that now, it's just like nature has totally taken over that whole space, right? So if we're patient enough and we let some of this artificial stuff kind of fall apart, this narrative about these movements, we'll see that we'll actually return back to a relationship with nature. And I think that a lot of us are going to have much more involvement in knowing where our food is coming from, and also spending time out in the environment and not being isolated, because that's what can kind of happen with this Pisces stuff. So basically, bottom line is this will become an eclipse 6 months from now. And if we look at even the next lunation, right, the next lunation in Aries, it's a solar eclipse in Aries conjunct Chiron. And you will also see that the ruler is Mars, and it's going to be conjunct Saturn. So it's saying that really what's hurting us is isolation, separation, hurting ourselves, and things where we are experiencing some kind of force that is beyond us. So this fight is actually being fought more so in churches, in hospitals, in spiritual centers, in hidden places, in private spaces, in our dreams. This is a time to really use the energies of Pisces and go, okay, it doesn't make sense. I can't really do these things literally. I have to actually kind of do them spiritually. So we have to do more of our spiritual maintenance. We have to do more of our spiritual upkeep. Baths, burning stuff, spraying stuff, clearing the air, playing, chants, playing high frequency music, sound healing, sound baths. I mean, these are the things that we kind of have to do to be able to clear this energy. So get familiar with it is my recommendation. If you want to feel a physical shift, if you want to feel better, if you want to bring in more security, more stability, you have to really kind of get right with either God or your higher self before that can actually happen. And that requires faith and the willingness and the dedication to actually set a little bit of time aside to say, okay, I'm going to check in. What's going on? What am I feeling? And leaning into that intuitively before you take any action. So this is gonna unfold over time. So outside of the sun and moon being smack dab between Saturn and Neptune, we also have the sextile to Uranus, and actually that's pretty much the strongest aspect that you're going to see in this chart. The most exact aspect, it's by a little bit less than a degree, is a sextile to Uranus. So where we plant the intention, the dreams, we're able to shake things up, change, evolve, break free, right? We're able to kind of prepare for what's going to be coming in April and also in May. So we're making changes. We're making intuitively kind of driven changes. We see Mercury is the first planet now that has entered Aries. And it's at a critical 0 degrees. So that is the cardinal point. Okay. And so when Mercury is in Aries, it's like, act first, think later. Or our mind is kind of moving much more quickly, much more rapidly. I see this as, that connection between Mars and Venus, where we are making an effort to connect with other people. We're making an effort to tell other people, hey, we got to work together, or this is the action that we need to be taking. I saw something funny that came up on my Twitter feed the other day. It said, like, if the grid were to go down, we are meeting at our local libraries at 9 a.m. every Saturday, pass it on. And I just sat there and I was like, man, I'm not saying that will happen, but what an amazing way to get the word out. That's like, for whatever reason, if something weird goes down, there is a plan that communities are saying this is where we're going to be meeting. Why? Because everybody's got a local community, right? They've got a library. You probably haven't been there since you were in middle school, but everybody's got one. And it reminds me of the fact that, when this moon comes in, especially as Mercury is getting very close to the North Node, when it hits the North Node, it's going to hit shadow, that individuals are waking up and they're spreading the word and telling people, this is what we have to do. We're getting plans in order in case, the communities need to work together. Not a bad idea. But our mind is working very quickly with Mercury and Aries, and we're able to, even though we're kind of still swimming in the fishbowl up here, we're able to start kind of sensing and kind of picking up where we need to be taking action for ourselves and speaking up and speaking out, because Mercury is very brave in this sign. We see the sextile to Pluto as well, so where individuals are sharing their ideas and helping change and transform communities. And we also see Mars, which is in Aquarius, so it's about taking action with others, is sextiling the North Node and Chiron. So a little bit of action with the right people or a little bit of dedication and hard work towards some of our goals actually allows us to heal ourselves or to become more self-sufficient or independent. Yes, Mars is squaring Uranus, and that's probably, I mean, it has nothing to do with Aquarius. I mean, nothing to do with Pisces at all, but that's a pretty explosive energy. Mars is about things that are hot, heated, conflict, agitation, war, but it's also about passion and desire. And with Mars square Uranus, it tells me that there is something that's at odds with each other or one another. You know, when it perfected, it was like the day before this particular new moon. So you're going to actually start to see this where there is like a riling up of the spirit right here, March 8th. When the moon comes into conjunction with Mars and Venus and it's in a dark moon phase, and the moon's got to pass that, and then it's got to hit Saturn and hit the new moon. I mean, I think that you're going to see some really interesting energies the 8th through the 15th of March, because this kind of seems like there's a bit of getting riled up, and then the moon hits Saturn and it restricts and it pulls it back. So I think you're going to see definitely some people who are going to be protesting or speaking out, or you're going to see some grassroots movements or some things that are going on where people are talking about unification, working together, the future, you know, team building opportunities. And then when moon hits Saturn, then it's going to kind of pull it back a little bit. And so with Mars square Uranus, it can mean that people are feeling very explosive. There's frustration, there's agitation. And Pisces is a sign that is like conflict avoidant. So I look at all these planets in Pisces where people are like, oh my God, you know, like there's some tension out there. Like, I don't know if I want to get involved. I'm just going to kind of hide out and watch through my windows. So there can be this feeling of people kind of feeling like they really want to get quiet and reflective, and that they're trying to kind of, block out some of the noise that's going on out there right now. So that's great. If you decide to say, hey, I'm consciously saying I'm not going to be getting involved in the riffraff, I'm going to be kind of finding my quiet space and like tapping in, because there can definitely be some stuff that can agitate us with this new moon. But also pressure, right? Squares create pressure, and that North Node is ruled by Aries. It's ruled by Mars, it's in Aries. So it's basically saying that there is, over the next 6 months, going to be movements where people are basically unifying and coming together and applying pressure on financial institutions, on business, on banking, on, you know, there's movements also involving like the farmers. Like I see some stuff that's going on in Europe right now where they're like literally laying fields and planting seeds in front of government buildings. And, you know, you see these rebellious farmers. This is Uranus and Taurus, basically saying, you know, we will make sure that we continue to provide food and resources for the collective. This is very important. And so, yeah, I think you're going to see more of that over the next 6 months with this particular new moon that's being seeded. Venus is in Aquarius. She's coming into the late degrees. She's behind the new moon. So that does feel very romantic. That does feel very inspiring. And then we see, obviously, Chiron conjunct the North Node. And so that's been happening since about February 18th. Now it's starting to separate, but it's like this is going to go clear into the next eclipse. Because we're going to be seeing that solar eclipse in Aries around the 8th of April that's in conjunction to Chiron. And so it's not often that I tell you guys like, hey, this is like really, really important, but like the beginning of April, I cannot even begin to explain what that's going to be kicking off. Like I've, you know, decided outside of making the videos that I'm going to make for the new and the full moon, the solar and the lunar eclipse, I'm going to be doing something completely different. I'm creating like a 12 rising sign in-depth horoscope for the 12 signs to talk to you guys about how to really understand and how to prepare, because even though the eclipses are in Aries and Libra, which is me versus you, or what's mine versus what is ours, and it's going to create some kind of strife in relationships in the collective, both of the rulers will be conjunct Saturn, which means there is an energy of something behind the scenes pulling the strings, orchestrating more conflict, orchestrating more divide. There's something going on in the ethers. There's something going on in space. There's something going on that we cannot see that is impacting us, that is creating lots of discord and lots of issues in regards to, trying to get people separated. It's trying to create a divide. And so as you go into these eclipses, you need to understand that so much of it is being seeded as these planets are coming into conjunction with Saturn right now, right? And it's meant to be kind of like, confusing. I think of like Neptune and anything in Pisces is like a fog. We don't know where it's coming from. We just know that it's here, right? And to be afraid of it. When in reality, I think that if enough people don't give way to this, and if they start to look around and go, no more crisis, no more conflict, no more assuming worst case scenario or waiting for the next shoe to drop, no more keeping everybody on their toes, we're going to tune it out and we're going to tap into what that inner guidance is. You guys would be surprised how much things would change out in the world. So don't get distracted is my advice over the next month. Don't get overwhelmed. Get somewhere quiet, get grounded, and reflect, and have some kind of a practice you can go to. Pisces is literally about being in water. Okay, so in some parts of the world, things are warming up. So if you want to go for a swim, you want to take a dip, go for a walk by the beach or by a pool, if you are by a lake, if you want to do fishing, whatever you want to do. Water is the one element that's consistent in both realms. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. It's almost like the lubrication in between worlds. So that's why being in water can be extremely therapeutic as we're going through these transits, because it can actually help kind of calm us down and help us better heal and work through some of these vibrational shifts that are happening. That also means staying hydrated, making sure you're drinking good quality water. There's something to be said about praying over your water before you drink it or before you use it to cleanse yourself or to cleanse your home. There's a reason why holy water has been utilized for thousands of years, because that is something that vibrationally receives its intent. So you don't need to have a bunch of bells and whistles for this new moon. You literally could stand over your mop bucket and go, okay, this is literally going to cleanse my home and my space. The space is protected. It's dispelling any negativity or anything that's going to, bring fear or illness into this home. You clean your house and then you go and you throw your mop bucket out in, the street and be done with it. Literally, you don't need anything to be able to make magic happen. You just have to believe. And that's what a lot of people are going to be realizing, that this is an energy that is ripe with manifestation. So you want to be careful what you're manifesting. You want to be careful what you're kind of tapping into. Anyway, I recommend baths, washes, floor washes, sprays. Get a spray bottle, put some clean water in it, pray over it, put some crystals in it, a couple shakes of essential oil. I love using like lemon for Pisces, believe it or not. And I'll put like some aquamarine chips or something, or some amethyst chips in a bottle, shake it up and then spray it. You can spray your space. I love Florida water. That's like one of my favorite things to use all the time, but Pisces season in particular, because I can use it to clear spaces in my tables and my hands after I do readings. I love 4 Thieves vinegar also for protecting spaces. I use sea salt. Really simple things that you can use. Vinegar, lemon, salt, and some high quality water to cleanse and clear your space is really all you need. So I recommend you guys do that during this time and be more aware when you're coming and going and leaving from your home to ground your energy, because there's going to be people out there that are going to be space cadets. I'm telling you this right now, especially as we start to see Venus and Mars coming into Pisces over this next month. You're going to see people who are going to be drunk, high, out of their mind, emotionally very stressed out, people who are having a really difficult time dealing with these frequencies. So you don't want to be ungrounded. So when you're leaving your house, you usually grab your purse and your phone and your keys and your wallet, sometimes your kids or your dog if you remember them. But you generally have those things before you leave, right? You're not going to leave your house without your car keys. So when you're grabbing these things, you want to make a conscious effort to go, okay, I'm also putting myself in my bubble. So I like to grab my stuff before I get in my car, sit and just imagine, okay, from the top of my head all the way to the bottom of my feet, I just feel this either golden light, or you can use pink, purple, whatever your color is, that is completely covering you from head to toe. And you want to visualize it as you're doing it. And when you finally get to the bottom of your feet and you're feeling enclosed and you're in your bubble, you're good to go. Start doing that before you leave the house. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with all the stickies over the next month. And the reason why I say this is because this new moon will really unfold over the next month, right? Until we get to the next new moon, which will be in 28 days. So if Pisces is about the spiritual, the hidden, other realms, things that we can't see, stuff that's happening in the ethers, Aries is what's rising, what becomes obvious, what is born, what is physically around. Look at this solar eclipse. Conjunct Chiron exactly per the minute. Mercury is retrograding, which deals with health and mental health and physicality. And then the ruler is Mars, which is conjunct Saturn. This basically means that on an individual level, all of us collectively are going to be experiencing or going through or having some kind of shock surprise about health, mental health, physical health. We're feeling like we have to be better prepared. We have to take action. We have to be courageous. We have to stand up for ourselves. And this is going to be a very, very difficult eclipse for the collective. So this is a new moon now in Pisces where we prepare. We pray, we cleanse, we get grounded, we visualize, we hold that kind of vibration for, okay, for those who aren't going to be able to handle this well, we hold space for them. You know, we are constantly trying to clear what's going on collectively for everybody with intention. So as this comes in, we can be better prepared. We can heal ourselves. We can also help be there for others in need. But this is going to be a very, very difficult eclipse for the collective. And I think to put it simply without getting too political, this is the grand reveal. This is the beginning of when everybody starts to realize, holy cow, what have we done? And what kind of an impact is this going to have on all of us physically and health-wise? And how are we going to be able to move forward? And also, how can we continue to be humble and serve those who are in need and not get into the tit for tat or the I told you so? Aries is in the now. It's right now. It's okay. We can't push it until later. We can't hold back. And from the time that we have this solar eclipse until Mars hits this degree, basically it's going to be, you know, April through about July. The whole storyline unravels. We start to really kind of realize what has happened over the last couple of years and what the agenda was, what the purpose was. And now we have to really be focused and be unified. And we have to be able to work together to be able to help those who are in need. So I hope that you guys, you know, can heed my advice, especially looking at that eclipse. Like I said, it's very complex. We're going to be talking about it over the entire next month. So I've got lots of content I'm going to put out for you. And also those extended horoscopes, if that's something that you guys are interested in. I want to take this through the 12 rising signs and show you guys where this new moon is going to be taking place for each and every one of you. So let's do that. As a reminder, I'm a Western astrologer. So I practice Western astrology, tropical astrology. So you have to listen to your tropical astrology. This will be whole sign, so I recommend listening to your rising sign first, then listen to your sun and your moon sign. This will give you an indication of, you know, the bigger picture, but the ascendant is going to tell you quite literally which house the new moon is going to be in. And it will, like I said, unfold over the immediate next month, and then eventually 6 months from now, it'll be an eclipse. As a reminder, once again, if you have Pisces placements, 18 to 22 degrees, sun, moon, rising, or personal planet, it's very personal for you, okay? So let's start with Aries and Aries rising. Let's take a look. Let's see what's going on with you guys. Obviously, a lot of what I was saying to you kind of probably resonates. But when you have this new moon that's going to be in Pisces, Aries, it's going to be taking place in your 12th house. So this is about spirituality and solitude. And it can be a highly spiritual and introspective time where you may feel more attuned to your subconscious mind, and it's a good time to engage in practices that promote spiritual growth and inner peace, such as meditating, journaling, resting, recuperating, you know, getting out in nature, spending time in water. All of these things are very helpful for you. Now, at the time of the new moon, the ruler is Jupiter, and it's in your second house of money and resources, self-esteem, and also values. So there's a lot of you reevaluating, sitting with this, thinking about how you feel about these topics, how you feel about these things, how you're becoming financially or physically prepared for some changes that are going to be coming out in the world. Maybe you're meditating and doing some work revolving around building up your self-esteem, building up your sense of resources, really reflecting on your thoughts about what it means to live an abundant life, right? So this is what you want to be doing during that new moon, my Aries. The card that I get for you is the High Priestess. I love that. Obviously, this is kind of like doubling down. Like when I get the High Priestess card, it's like my green light that's like, yeah, well, you were sensing. That's exactly right. This card says intuition, mystery, sacred knowledge, divine feminine, inner knowing, subconscious spirituality, higher power, and inner voice. So this is what you're doing. What I love about the High Priestess too, and I think a lot of Aries placements are going to be practicing this a lot with this new moon, is sitting and being still, not taking action, waiting for the messages to be received, reflecting, waiting, and not feeling like you need to leap into something, right? That seems to be the key when this comes up. Good luck, Aries. I love that card for you. All right, so we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You are going to be doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 11th house. So for you, Taurus, this is about friendships and community. So a new moon being in the 11th house is bringing a sense of unity and connection to friendships and social circles. So it's a good time to engage in group activities and charitable work that benefits the community. Now, it's also a great time for wish setting, for intention setting in regards to your goals. Obviously, it's very personal for you, Taurus, because the ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter is in your first house. So it might be about you bringing something about your wisdom, your guidance to other people, wanting to join new networks, groups, communities, wanting to connect with people who might be in other places. That might be a theme for you here as well. And really, I think reflecting on what your goals are. Saturn in your 11th house does want you to think about, are you really doing some team building? Are you focusing on being a good friend? Are you connecting to other people? So that way you're not feeling so like kind of alone and isolated. There is definitely a need for community in this particular transit. All right, so let's take a look here. The card that I get for you is the Hanged Man. So far we've already gotten a lot of the cards that are associated with Pisces. For you, the Hanged Man deals with pause, surrender, letting go, awaiting, new perspective, wisdom, self-sacrifice, uncertainty, or contemplation. So this is a card that deals with Neptune. And so I think that this can be also talking about like maybe joining like a meditation group, or like doing like a yoga class, or doing something that can give you time to pause and reflect with other people. Maybe you're feeling like you're really reevaluating some of your goals when it comes to, your friends and like what groups you're participating in and wanting to be around people who are a little bit more conscious. And so you're reflecting on that during this time. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You're going to be doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 10th house, which has connections to your career and your public image. So really interesting for you. I think that obviously this is a very big time when it comes to your professional life. You may feel more inclined to pursue a career path that aligns with your spiritual or humanitarian values, and it's a good time to set new goals for your professional life and work towards achieving them with compassion and empathy. This can also be a time where you're creating your dream job or your dream position, or you're going after, your dream job. Jupiter is the ruler. And so with Jupiter being in the 12th house, it makes me feel like you can be doing some kind of, nonprofit work, or doing work in, a creative setting or in a healthcare setting. It might mean that, some of you guys are realizing for you to make your careers happen, you have to continue education, and maybe you're going back to school because you have Jupiter in the 12th. And this can also mean that some of the work that you do, you're not exactly, it's not exactly gaining any visibility yet. Like this is the seed that's like planting, like, okay, I'm starting the new project, or I'm starting the new job. Remember, in 6 months' time, when this becomes a lunar eclipse, Jupiter will be on your ascendant, which means you're getting rewarded for the work that you've been doing. It's visible, people can see it. So it's going to take some time for some of this to kind of unfold. And I also think that this is a wonderful time for those of you guys who are like, I want to explore new potential careers or pathways, or I want to be focusing more on, my role out in the world if you don't work. Maybe it's about doing something nonprofit. Maybe it's about giving back or dedicating some time or doing some kind of charitable work for your community. But this would be in a higher position. So maybe you're like, I want to go and, volunteer for city council, or I want to go and do something where I'm getting more involved with, my local like legislation. Something like that can come up, especially if it's about helping those in need. Now, if you're somebody who's in a creative field, this is wonderful too, especially if you work with like films, cameras, photography, because it can be about doing some kind of work behind the scenes and having a private space that you can work from. The card that I get is the Fool. So this is a card that's more about Uranus. And Jupiter is getting really close to Uranus. I think this is about taking chances, believing in your dreams, opening up to fresh starts and new beginnings. This is about innocence, originality, fearlessness, free spirit, fresh hope, taking chances, new paths, and spontaneity. So new moons are great for that. I think the new moon in a sextile to Uranus is being like, I've never done this before, but I'm going to go out for this position, or I'm going to try this type of work, or I'm going to do something different when it comes to my professional life. So that's a great card for you. So far, we've gotten a number of majors, guys. There's some big stuff happening. Good luck, Gemini. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you're going to be doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 9th house. And this is in a fellow sister sign. So if you have 18 to 22 degrees of Cancer, you'll be experiencing a trine during this particular new moon, which is very harmonious for you. Now, the new moon is in your 9th house, which is about travel and philosophy. So it can be a time of spiritual or philosophical exploration where you may feel drawn to seek new experiences or expand your horizons in some way. And it's a good time to embark on a spiritual journey or pursue higher education. This may also be a time when you're considering planning a trip or something in regards to teaching, learning, education, publishing, law, legality. These are all themes connected to the 9th house. And at the time of this particular new moon, the ruler is in Taurus in your 11th house. So it does seem like it can mean learning with a group of friends, connecting with a group of people, traveling with friends, making connections with people in other places, doing some kind of training or certification with a group of other people. That can come up here as well. Personally, between the sextile that you have to Jupiter and Jupiter sextile to your ascendant and then the trine, it's not a bad new moon for you, Cancer. I do feel like this is about you opening up to new avenues in regards to your faith or your spiritual practice. And this can be a time when you're calling in like a new relationship with a mentor or a teacher because it's so close to Saturn. So it can be bringing somebody in who can be kind of teaching you a new philosophy or a new way of life. And if you have goals for continuing your education, going back to school, planning a trip, going somewhere, likely this is going to be something that you're doing just after the new moon. The card that I got for you is the Strength card. Oh my goodness. So self-love, respect, unconditional love, courage, inner strength, influence, compassion, persuasion, and inner stillness. I love that because the Strength card, so many people think that it's like about taking action, when in reality it's quite the opposite. Even though it seems like a solar energy, it's about being like, I'm just going to let this be. And I know that part of the process of like really showing strength is emotional strength, spiritual strength, sometimes resistance, letting what's meant to come to you come to you. So it's about, I think, having that opportunity to really experience that. I think it can be also a real big turning point where you're learning a lot about unconditional love. Okay, so we're 4 for 4, guys. We have 4 majors already. Good luck, Cancer. All right, so we have Leo and Leo rising. You're going to be doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 8th house. So for you, Leo, this is all about transformation, intimacy, some kind of renewal perhaps that's taking place, and it can feel very, very sensitive, very private, and it can have you kind of reflecting on change. So a new moon here is about being introspective and inclined to explore your innermost desires and your fears. It's a good time to engage in therapy or other forms of self-exploration that facilitate growth. Now, at the time of this particular new moon, it's going to sextile Jupiter, which is in your 10th house of career. So I don't think it's just about exploring intimacy and joint resources, maybe. I think it's going to be about also exploring where you're willing to have some sense of growth in your career, and where growth might mean merging with another person. It might mean that you're realizing that you need more. It might mean that you're investing in your business. It may mean that through some kind of situation where you're feeling stuck or lack or fear can actually promote or prompt some kind of change. So I do see this as a time where, you may have to kind of take the good with the bad. You might realize, okay, this job isn't paying me enough, or, the benefits aren't good enough, or, I don't feel secure, stable enough in this thing or in this relationship, whatever, that it really prompts you to like go big with some of these changes. Big changes to your status are coming, whether it's your career, your relationships. As Jupiter and Uranus align in April, it's going to represent this leveling up in your career and your professional status. So it could be you launch your own business, you take on a new business partnership, you make a big change in a relationship. It seems to be kind of connecting to that. And I really encourage you to like dig deep and be willing to overcome any fears, right? Because Pisces is about dissolving 8th house's fears and blockages. And for many of you guys, it's this feeling that's like, okay, am I bringing in enough money? Because 8th house is other people's resources, or questioning whether or not, a relationship professionally or romantically is going to work because of some financial blocks or some intimacy blocks that can be coming up here as well. The card that I got for you, Leo, is the Knight of Swords. Okay, so this is can be connected with air signs, so Geminis and Aquariuses and Libra. But this is about ambition, fast thinking, success, assertiveness, direct, and being impatient, daring, focused, or a perfectionist. So I think about Mercury and Mercury going into Aries, because this is more like a Mercury energy. And this is about going into the 9th house, and you're saying, okay, well, let's look at the bright side, or what's the positive, sense in this, or, what am I learning? Like, it's trying to say, really tap into what the lessons are about give and take, and about where change can actually be a positive thing. It might also indicate that there is some travel on the horizon, or there is some significant message on the horizon that's kind of coming in that you need to be aware of. So it can be phone calls, emails, text messages, stuff like that. That's about promoting this sense of change, or even conversations that can seem kind of scary, or that things are happening, very quickly, but it's helping you get to the core of the issues that are making you feel blocked. So have those difficult conversations. You don't need to rush into them, but have those difficult conversations if necessary. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be doing this new moon in Pisces. This is going to be in your natal 7th house of relationships. For you, Virgo, this new moon brings a sense of compassion and understanding to your relationships with other people, okay? And it's a good time to deepen your connections with loved ones and resolve any conflicts through empathy and understanding. All right, so obviously you got a ton of planets that are going to be in your 7th house, right? So if you're single and you're like, I want to meet someone, this is a new moon that you're setting those intentions that you want to meet someone. This is also your marketplace. So if you have a business, if you have clients, if you have services or things that you sell, this is where you're kind of coming up with new ideas or preparing, to really kind of make that possible to give those services. If you're in a relationship, it can represent a renewal phase in regards to a relationship that you're in. 7th house is always other people. Now, this is going to be an area of real focus for the next year for you, both because you're going to have eclipses there in the fall. You're going to have, Mars and Venus conjunct Saturn in your house of relationships during the eclipses. And I think it's really going to be about bridging the gaps in intimacy or financial issues. The South Node's going through your 2nd house. So some of you guys are experiencing financial fluctuations. You're giving up, streams of income. You're changing jobs. You're letting things go. The North Node's going through your 8th house, which can represent receiving support from others, or having a partner that kind of helps back you up, or somebody who provides some kind of loans or some kind of support. So the fact that the eclipses are going to have such a focus in the 7th house, it means that you need help. And if you're going through financial challenges, it's about opening up to a partner about that. If you're going through intimacy issues, it's about talking to your partner about that, or talking to a therapist, or working with somebody who can give you some kind of support. If you're, needing to get your taxes done, it might be about bringing a tax professional in because Mars is going to be there too. So if you need support, it's about putting yourself in a position of being like, I'm willing to get support if I'm feeling kind of lost or, distracted. And if you're feeling like a partner is feeling like that, then it's going to be about kind of tackling that. But in general, deepening connections happen here. Now, at the time of the particular new moon, the ruler is in the 9th house. So deepening connections through travel, deepening connections through learning, through training or certification, also through ceremonies and rituals. Some Virgo risings with Saturn going into the 7th house, you're going from being in a committed relationship to making it like official, being like, we're engaged, now we're planning a wedding. Some of you guys are separating and you're dissolving your marriages or your relationships because Neptune is there as well. So that means that you're having to do it through like legal means. Jupiter's in the 9th. On the flip side, long distance relationships, learning a lot about a person, through traveling with them, learning about their culture, learning about their belief systems. So it's regardless of where you're at in the relationship spectrum, it's a really beautiful transit because it does say that even if you're dissolving a relationship, you're trying to remain optimistic and positive about, what you had and what the lessons were. And if you're single or if you're with somebody, it's about an enrichment through travel and philosophy, and having a relationship that you're kind of building stronger with. Saturn, after all, rules your 5th house. So it can be also about, recognizing and realizing what is and isn't true love or what you truly are most passionate about. And it can also be where relationships kind of evolve because of children or because of hobbies that you guys are doing together. All right, so let's see what card Virgo gets for this new moon in Pisces. I get the Lovers. Okay, so we're back to the majors, obviously. Great card for Virgo rising. This is about divine love, deep soul connections, choice, harmony, relationships, values, alignment, unions, balance, unity, and romance. So I think a lot of Virgo risings could use a little bit of that. Options and choices is an interesting one. I think about how this will become an eclipse and Jupiter will be in your 10th house square. So it'll be a huge status change. But for some of you guys who are like, I'm not interested in relationships, it could literally mean that you're aligning with the right person professionally, which could dramatically change the destiny of your career. When that eclipse comes in with Jupiter in your 10th square, it means that you're like, oh, I'm merging or working with this new business partner or this new company and like my career is growing. But for some of you guys, it may also mean that there's a new status. So if you are single and you meet somebody in the next 6 months, it's like, oh, I'm in a relationship or I'm engaged or we're married or we're becoming parents. We live together. These kinds of things will kind of come up over these next couple of months. Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You'll be doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 6th house, Libra. And this is all going to be about health, work, and routine. So you may feel more in tuned with your physical and emotional well-being during this time. It's good time to focus on self-care and establish healthy routines in your work and in your daily life. 6th house is about your office space. It's about your coworkers, your habits. It's also about your physical health. And it has also this connection to service and sacrifice in the 6th house. So Pisces being there is about whether or not you're in tune with your physical health, if you're in tune with your habits, if there are things that are slipping away from you with your sleep or just your habits in general that's inhibiting you from having better health. Just coming out of that full moon in Virgo, maybe there was some epiphany or awareness about where you're kind of needing to get out of your own way. This is very important for you, Libra rising. Especially because the next lunation that we're going to have is going to be a full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. So it'll be right on your ascendant at the end of March. So this will bring your attention to your physical body. Now, at the time of that eclipse, Venus will be conjunct Saturn in your 6th. So it's what you're eclipsing out of your life, what habits, what tendencies, where are you having escapism issues, where are you working too much, sleeping too much, eating something you shouldn't be eating, or if there's something going on that's a habit that you need to cut, you'll kind of intuitively feel into that. Now, at the time of this new moon, the ruler is Jupiter. It's going to be located in your 8th house, which is about the emotional connection, the psychological connection, why you have the habits that you have. And it may be also about detoxing, cleansing. It can bring up opportunities for healing, psychic healing, and also some kind of like clearing of blockages, especially like karmic things or things that are hard to kind of pinpoint. Healing may come in a spiritual sense because that's what the 8th house can mean. And it can also be about working through trauma or some kind of emotional or psychological block and realizing that that's the connection. If you're wanting to get back to the gym, have healthier habits, focus more on your sense of balance and emotional well-being, this is the new moon that you want to do it. And it'll stick as long as you're really focusing on some of these habits. Down the road, obviously, you know, like I said, this will become an eclipse. So you need to keep in mind that you are going to be seeing eclipses still in the fall in Libra and then in Pisces. So I cannot state this enough. Take good care of your health, Libra. You guys are more prone to having digestional issues, back issues, mental, emotional issues, problems with your feet. Things like that can kind of start coming up, and it can creep up on you with planets in Pisces. So you really want to kind of intuitively tap into creating a schedule or routine that's going to be better for you, not just at work, but for your mental health as well. The card that I got for you is the Queen of Swords. Okay, so this is you, Libra, as an air sign. So the card basically means independence, intelligence, honesty, fair, clear boundaries, direct communications, constructive criticism, objective, and logical. So I think of swords and I think of like Mars, and pretty soon Mars is going to go into Pisces, and so is Venus. And it basically means, I think, and this is coming from a Libra rising, having better time management and being mindful of how much you're giving to other people. 6th house is hard work and sacrifice. And so you're going to kind of look around and you're going to go, at what cost? Working long hours, giving too much to other people, a tendency to want to just overhelp and over-provide, and the impact that this can be having on your health and habits. So probably with the lunar eclipse that you're going to see in Libra down the road, it will be about you basically really sticking to some of those habits and knowing that you need to do that to have better, you know, boundaries with other people for your physical, emotional, or mental health. So speak up, be clear about what your boundaries are, get really clear about your routine now, so that way you can start executing that over like the next month or two. Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You're doing this new moon in Pisces in your natal 5th house. And if you happen to have any Scorpio placements, 18 to 22 degrees, you'll be receiving a trine, which is going to be spiritual, transformative, inspirational, romantic, dreamy, creative. So it's in a fun part of your chart. So a new moon in your 5th house, Scorpio, is all about creativity, romance, and self-expression. So this can be a very creative and romantic time where you may feel more inspired to pursue your artistic passions or engage in playful activities. And it's a good time to start a new creative project or nurture your romantic relationships. But the 5th house is about having fun, taking chances. This can be about, you know, new creative projects emerging, spending more time with your children, new hobbies, or even like side hustles. And the 5th house is definitely about dating, falling in love, and romance. So this is also good for Scorpio risings if you're looking to get out, date again, meet new people. Definitely is a very romantic vibe, and you'll see this more even as we get into eclipse season. As Mars and Venus move into your 5th house, I think it can definitely be an indication that single Scorpios are going to be meeting some people that are going to be very life-changing. And also for those of you guys who are in committed relationships, Jupiter is the ruler of this new moon, and Jupiter is in the 7th house. So it does seem to kind of signify, okay, you know, like there is some kind of growth going on in a relationship, or maybe you're trying to focus more on date nights with your partner, or maybe you were trying to focus on traveling with your partner, some kind of like growth that's going on in a relationship. 5th house can also be about younger people and children. So like a new moon here, especially in a trine to a Scorpio ascendant and in a sextile to the 7th house, is where, you know, children can be a focus in a relationship, children coming in, talking about kids, and how that's going to create some pretty significant changes in regards to a relationship and like sudden growth. Once again, you know, this will become an eclipse that will be down the road in the fall of this year. And so I think about how right now it's more talking about what the future holds in a relationship. So whether you are just meeting somebody or you've been with somebody for some time, you know, the future is going to be about change big time, because when this becomes an eclipse at the end of the year, this will focus a Jupiter square in your 8th house. So it'll be a full moon here, but it'll square Jupiter like this. And Jupiter in the 8th house is going to represent some kind of growth financially with intimacy, but also some kind of merger and kind of coming together, especially in terms of like insurance, finances, investments. So this can also be a time when you're like talking to financial advisors or even talking to your partner about what you want to do with money, what you're hoping to kind of achieve, how you guys can be putting your heads together and figuring out how to make more of it, or how to be more so financially prepared down the road, especially if you were to have a kid. And so the eclipse can bring up like insurance matters and things like that later this year. Now, if not, it's just going to be about building intimacy with another person. But I think that Scorpio risings have one of the better kind of transits with this. And you'll see this unfold over the next month, especially as Mars and Venus move into your 5th house. And it can be a very, very passionate time for you guys. Lots of growth in relationships. So if you haven't met anybody yet, this is the time that you would probably start kind of dating. The card that I get is the Hierophant. Okay, I guess we're back on the majors. So this is about Taurus, okay? And that's where Jupiter and Uranus is. So it is saying that there is some kind of opportunity for a lot of romance with a partner. Taurus does represent, stability, consistency, commitment, tradition. The Hierophant is about spiritual wisdom, religious beliefs, tradition, conventional conformity, education, knowledge, and your belief system. So what do you believe about love? What do you believe about relationships? What do you believe about, like connecting and committing to another person? This might be a time where you like bring in like a relationship coach or some kind of business coach or financial coach. That's another way to look at it. Somebody who can kind of help guide you into feeling a little bit more stable or kind of connected to making some major changes with relationships to money. But dating coaches can come in. I think that's something I would watch for, because the Hierophant is somebody who's going to kind of like teach you something, right? And so Saturn in the 5th, it can mean your children teach you something, a relationship teaches you something, working with your inner child teaches you something. So you're going to be learning about some of this stuff throughout this next new moon. Good luck, Scorpio. You got Sag and Sag rising. You're doing a new moon in Pisces in your natal 4th house. And for you, my Sagittarians, this is all about your home and your family. So you're going to be feeling a little bit more emotionally connected to your home or your family environment during this time. It's a good time to nurture your relationships with loved ones and create a sense of sanctuary in your home. So at the time of this new moon, it's going to actually be sextiling and connected to Jupiter, which is Pisces' traditional ruler. It's also your ruler. So this is actually positively impacting you, Sagittarius. With Jupiter in your 6th house, you're working. There is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to get done. You have a very busy to-do list, but it also can be about some kind of growth or expansion in regards to your office space, your organizational skills, your health. So this new moon coming in is kind of feeding off of, are you organized? Are you making the time? Are you being of service? Are you also thinking about new, inventive ways that you can like reorganize or like rework things at home? So it can be a time where you're like, okay, we need to feng shui the house, or we need to like move some stuff around and add a lamp or paint a wall. Because there's a lot of work to be done on the home front when you have a new moon in the 4th house. This can also be about bringing in the right person or people to help you set that up. So if you're looking for a designer or an architect, or if you're looking for a home organizer, or somebody to come in and like watch the dogs, whatever, you could do that here as well. New moons in the 4th are great for kind of connecting with our home, our family, our ancestry, or our roots. And it can also be a time where you're thinking about, where do I want to live? How do I want to live? What kind of a home environment am I creating? What are my goals revolving around spending more time at home? Now, down the road, when this becomes an eclipse, you will actually see Jupiter, which will be in your 7th house, and it'll square the new moon, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces 6 months from now. And that basically means you're having to work with a partner to figure out how to bridge the gaps in limitation between each other. It can mean that, you've met somebody and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, they live here, I live there. How can we find a way to be able to kind of see each other or bridge our homes together? It can mean that you have a partner that's traveling and you're really focused on what's going on the home front. And you're having to kind of experience that expansion and contraction within relationships, or maybe you've met somebody that's getting you outside of your comfort zone. So we'll have to see what happens. But right now, you're very focused on your home environment and also getting things organized and getting things prepared, whether that's for your space or where you're planning on moving to. That's another way that you can look at it. And even these next two eclipses are going to highlight a conjunction to Saturn in this particular part of your chart. So if you just moved, or maybe you are, renovating a house, or, redecorating a house, I could definitely see that as a part of like your creative expression throughout this next set of eclipses. Okay, so the card they get for you is the Ten of Swords. Ouch. So new moon in the fourth house, it can have this other side to it that's like, okay, what am I getting rid of? What am I cleaning out? And you're cleaning out closets, and like emotions and memories may be coming up for you. You might be reflecting on what has ended, what has passed. This is about endings. This is about feeling like you're at a loss, or you're, being left out. You're working through a crisis or deep wounds. You're letting go of this feeling of betrayal or failure, which, it's possible. Pisces is about a completion, and the fourth house is about the past. So I'm kind of feeling like, are you looking at past relationships with family, or past relationships with people, or just where you've lived, or, experiences that you've had, and asking yourself like, okay, is it time to heal this? Probably, yeah, I do think so. And I think that, sometimes moving stuff around your house stirs a lot up for us emotionally, or maybe you're getting involved with, being in a family member's home or in somebody else's home, and it's bringing back some like memories for you. So work with that sextile to Jupiter and Uranus. Like if you're feeling emotionally down, or if you're kind of going through the flow of learning to let something go, you have to maintain a sense of like a schedule and a routine, so you can feel grounded as you're moving through that. Okay, sending you lots of good vibes, Sag. I hope it's a good new moon for you, but let me know. Okay, so now we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. What's up, Capricorn? You're doing a new moon in Pisces in your natal third house, which is going to be about communication, vehicles, gadgets, siblings, learning. Okay, that's the theme. So a new moon here inspires you to express yourself more creatively or intuitively, and it's a good time to start a new course of study or engage in meaningful conversations with other people. At the time of this new moon, it's very close to Saturn, which is your chart ruler. So it's a lot of, what do I think? What do I have to say? But not just that, it's what am I feeling inclined to say? What is my intuition telling me? Taking time to develop more of a routine, to go for a walk, to journal, to reflect, to read can be really helpful. And at the time, this will be sextile the ruler of the new moon, which is Jupiter, in your fifth house. So it could be a hobby. Maybe you decide, hey, I want to, start a podcast as a hobby, and maybe see if it picks up momentum. Or I'm going to learn a new skill like tarot or astrology. I could see that with Saturn in the third house. And I want to see if I can kind of like turn it into like a business. Maybe you're learning more about self-development and wellness. Maybe you are making more of a conscious effort to be really pausing and reflecting before you jump into new relationships, or before you're communicating with siblings, or maybe even like your kids. It's a nice aspect in your chart, both the sextile to your ascendant and also the conjunction to your ruler and the sextile to Jupiter. I think there's just a lot more of you putting an emphasis on like purpose. The things that you're learning or the things that you're reading, they're supposed to be promoting happiness, joy, creativity. Now, let's say this new moon's in your third, you might be looking for a new vehicle, right? Maybe you're looking to go and buy a new phone or a new computer. That can kind of come up here as well. But it's going to be something that's going to enhance your happiness, your creativity, your self-expression. So I do think it can be really great for like writers and creatives and people who are on social media. It's a good time to like start new campaigns and other things that you want to start doing and creating in a different way. And probably like finding like a timeline, or like a schedule for when you're going to be like posting things. So maybe you're creating like a creative content schedule, because there's some sense of like commitment that you're making to being consistent with it. And then obviously, you know, down the road, this will be an eclipse that'll square Jupiter in your 6th. So it can turn into kind of feeling like, whoa, this thing like started as like a side hustle, and now I've got like 2 jobs, or now I'm making money while I'm writing, or there's something else that's going to come in that's going to be a part of like your daily routine. And that can also indicate like vehicle matters and having to like update vehicles or having to like work on vehicles, because Jupiter will square your 3rd. So if you do buy a car, make sure you suss it out. Make sure with all these Pisces planets, you go and really have it looked at, and you make sure that it's mechanically sound. So you're not experiencing potentially some issues of having to have something serviced because you overlooked something that you buy, right? That's kind of my thought on this. The card that I get for you is the 4 of Swords. Okay, which is a funky card. So this is about rest, relaxation, meditation, renewal, solitude, to gather your thoughts, recuperation, retreat, sanctuary, self-protection, and peace. Rest, recuperation is kind of what comes up for me. It's like not really feeling like you need to jump into action yet. Okay, so whether that's being like, okay, I want to move, but it doesn't feel like the right time yet. Or like, I need to buy a car, but I want to wait until it's like, you know, better timing. Or I feel like I find the perfect thing. Not taking action, reflection, which is Pisces. So in the 3rd house, it's taking the time to think it through before you make a commitment, like a move or a purchase or something like that. And I think that the rest and recuperation and the solitude part is true. And it might mean that, you know, you're taking a break from talking to someone. You're taking a break from feeling like you need to be, you know, like busy all of the time. You're giving yourself these times to kind of like break your day up a little bit. So Saturn and Pisces could mean I go for a bike ride, I go for a walk, I take a nap, things like that. It's kind of breaking up your routine. So hopefully that's helpful for you, my Capricorns. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You'll be doing this new moon in Pisces in your 2nd house of money, resources, possessions, and self-esteem. So this is your money house. It's also about values. And during this new moon, you may feel more inclined to be charitable and compassionate towards others, especially in a financial sense. And it's a good time to reassess your values and priorities regarding money and material possessions. Now, this is also important for you because it is conjunct Saturn, which is your traditional ruler. So it's about your relationship to your money, your relationship to your things. What do you need? What do you need less of? What are you willing to give away? What can you sacrifice? Where are you feeling more generous? And the 2nd house Saturn transit, it is this feeling of like downsizing or being more minimalist or, you know, cutting back, sticking to a budget, being more conservative with your spending. It can mean that you're realizing that there are some things that you can kind of part ways with and give away or do without. And at the time of the new moon, you have the ruler, Jupiter, in your 4th house, very close to Uranus, which is your modern day ruler. So this is a less is more mentality. It's like the less financial obligations I have, the more freedom I have. The more freedom I have to move, to relocate, to travel, to pick up and go if I need to go, and kind of simplifying your life. That's how this feels to me. So interesting aspects that you have all around. Both of your chart rulers are very much kind of in the mix right now. And it does seem to kind of paint a picture that's like as you get into the spring of this year, you know, it may prompt suddenly moving, relocating, upgrading your home, living with other people, having some kind of unconventional living situation where you're with other people in some way. And then finally, you know, in the fall, and this becomes an eclipse, you're going to have Jupiter that is going to be in Gemini in your 5th house of fun, creativity, self-expression, playtime, children, which will square the eclipse that's going to be in your 2nd house. So it's going to be, well, maybe I'm cutting back on my spending because I want to try to launch my own business, or I want to have more playtime, or I'm having a kid, so I'm being more conservative with my spending, or I have to be thinking about my investments with my children. And so it is having me kind of hold back a little bit in what I'm spending with money. That can be something that can come up here as well. Certainly financial rituals, or, you know, doing your money magic or your abundance work is something you want to do during this particular new moon. I think of how it sextiles Jupiter, Uranus in the 4th, where when you get really clear about what you don't need and realizing what the bare essentials are, it then makes it possible for you to simplify your life and go, okay, I can't have that freedom that I'm looking for. This is all I have to do. right? So for some of you guys, it might mean, hey, I'm getting rid of stuff. I'm selling stuff. I'm giving it away. And maybe making money in the process and helping you actually kind of achieve more of the home life that you desire. It can be getting rid of things and bringing in more plants, right? Taurus can be about plants and gardens. Maybe you're saying, you know what, I'm spending less money on stuff because I want to be able to, do more agricultural work at home, or I'm not buying things. I am buying flowers or house plants. Or, I'm saving my money because I'm planning on moving or investing in a property. So these are the ways that it can kind of manifest. Ultimately, it's all here, I think, to bring you more joy in the long term. The card that I get is the King of Swords. Okay, so we got the King of Swords, the Queen of Swords, the Page, the Knight of Swords, and we haven't seen the Page yet. We'll see. So all the swords elements are being activated, and obviously you're in Aquarius, so this could be you, just like Libra got the Queen. Mental clarity, intellectual power, truth, authority, reason, discipline, high standards, integrity, head over heart, serious and strict. So I think this is about you being very clear. I don't need this. This isn't necessary. We can kind of remove this from, the pile, or we can let this go. And being really kind of checked in and clear and communicative about what you do and do not need. And I think that this is an opportunity for you, like I said, to simplify your life. Now, some of you guys are kind of saying, I need to get serious about my budget. I need to get serious about my spending habits. I need to be saving more money. I need to be consuming less. Like, if that's what's coming up for you right now, don't have a lack mindset, right? Sometimes you can look at this willingness to be like, if I can scale back on this, I can have more for that. Like, it's really simple, just kind of moving some things around right now. And it may mean that you decide to, spend personally less money on some of your pleasure kind of investments. So that way you can have more security and also opportunity for excitement, especially on the home front in the long term. Good luck. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. Obviously, this is new moon, new you. You're doing this new moon in your first house, Pisces, and this is all about yourself and your personal identity. So this can be a time of introspection and spiritual renewal. It's where you feel more connected to your inner self, and a good time to set new intentions for personal growth and self-improvement. So new moon, new you is kind of like getting this blank slate, right? And the conjunction to Saturn is, I think, the vision that you have for yourself and also your goals and what you're hoping to achieve and how you're getting more serious about that. And you're realizing that it has to be a combination of not just what you're committing to, but also what your intuition is telling you, what your gut is telling you, what visions you're having, what hunches you're having. And at the time of the new moon, the ruler, which is also your traditional ruler, is Jupiter, and it sextiles Jupiter in the third. So if you're really wanting to make a change, write it down, talk about it, speak about it, learn about it, tell other people. That will hold you accountable. But this also means that you have to either travel, learn, communicate, write, or share what these changes are that you're making, right? And this new moon is setting the stage basically for really, I think, getting clear about what your personal goals are, so that way the rest of the year can kind of follow, where then that comes with the physical or financial changes, then it comes with the mental, or it can be also the financial changes, but the third house is more about movement. So it's setting the stage with the new moon in the first house. The change starts with you, and it's all about a change in how you communicate, your philosophy, and also what you're learning, right? Now down the road, there will be a full moon lunar eclipse in your sign, and that'll be in September, and that'll have a Jupiter square from your fourth house, which can indicate that you are in the process of moving, or you're going in between two homes, or maybe you're traveling between two places, or your home life is expanding in some way, both for you and your family, but maybe also a partnership. So before you get there, this is a new moon that's kind of saying, where do you want to be? How do you want to look? How do you want to feel? Where do you want to live? What are you hoping to achieve, right? And you'll see as the eclipses come in March and April, they're going to be in financial signs, but it's going to be conjunct Saturn in your sign. The rulers will be conjunct Saturn. So it means that you have to ask yourself, well, what do I value? What is important? How am I making money? How can I become more self-sustainable? What am I working towards? And in order to do that, what do I have to let go of? And so sometimes that does mean walking alone or going the path in your own way and kind of acknowledging and recognizing that nobody's going to make change happen unless you make it happen for yourself. So I would really encourage you to start talking about these changes, holding yourself accountable, setting your goals in writing, having mantras for yourself, and keep things moving, because Jupiter in the 3rd house wants you to be moving, learning, and evolving. And probably when the eclipses come in and you start to see planets conjuncting Saturn in your sign, that's when you're going to go, okay, it's time for me to kind of start making the move. And yes, it does require a sense of having to kind of reinvent yourself or mature or grow up some way in the process. So set those new intentions for your personal self and self-improvement so you can be prepared for having, I think, more options and more flexibility down the road. This is also a good time if you're wanting to make changes to your appearance, your body, your style, how you look, how you dress. Certainly Saturn being there can be more conservative and Neptune can be more spiritual. And you're like, okay, how can I find something that's kind of meeting in the middle? You know, how do I want to present myself to other people? We get the Knight of Swords again. Wow, so we got a lot of swords today. So obviously, again, this is about being ambitious. This is about communicating, putting the word out, success-driven, intellectual, and being really focused. You know, another way to look at this is Jupiter also rules your 10th house. So I'm wondering if you're like, oh, I'm writing a new bio on my website, or I'm taking new, professional photos, or I'm reintroducing myself on my social media, or I'm going to start, writing something or teaching something. And like, that's bringing you more recognition. So you're like, wow, okay, I have to be a little bit more kind of professional and presentable, and really presenting yourself in a way where people are seeing you. You're becoming more visible as well, which sometimes Pisces risings aren't crazy about. But yeah, it's time to speak up and start, putting your words into action. So I hope that's helpful for you, Pisces. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your guys' feedback about this video, especially this new moon. There's so much to kind of unpack with these Pisces energies. So make sure you tune in to my March monthlies. We're going to be doing that pretty soon. And I'll talk to you guys all about like the spring equinox that we have coming and what that chart looks like, and kind of like a overview of March. And then we're going to talk more about these Pisces energies and how to actually actively lean into it and work with it. Once again, if you guys like my content, please give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment below, let me know where you're tuning in from, especially if this is you as a first-time viewer. I'd love to hear from you. I always appreciate your guys' feedback, even though I can't always get back to all of you guys. I definitely read your comments, and a big thank you for supporting the channel and for my work as a full-time content creator for YouTube. If you guys want to book a reading with me, you should check out my links below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. If you go there, you can see my schedule and you can book a one-on-one Zoom session with me. I do a combination of tarot and astrology readings and what I see intuitively working with the Sabian Symbols. I also teach tarot and astrology as well. So check that out while you're there. Sign up for my newsletter so you're alerted as to when these new personal extended horoscopes come out for the eclipses, so you guys can tune into that as well. Until next time, I'll see all of you very soon. Enjoy this particular new moon. I hope all of you guys plant your field of dreams. I'm excited to see what your garden is growing in the spring of 2024. Until next time, take care.